Hey everyone, I'm Jim Hopkinson,
And I'm Vanessa Van Edwards.
and we are so happy to be collaborating together. I teach people what to say during a salary negotiation.
And I'm an expert in body language and lie detection, which is so important for our nonverbal communication. We've decided to team up to offer you 4 quick tips on how to use body language in negotiation.
Okay, so there's a few things that you need to do before you go in and ask for a raise. The first is keeping track of your accomplishments while you're on the job. And better yet, make sure you tie those to numbers that save the company money or make the company money. Listen, I'm not saying you have to update your resume every single week, but do something like keep a Word doc or a Google Doc or a notepad where you can just keep track of your accomplishments every single week or on a regular basis so that you can use that later on. Second, you need to know your value on the marketplace. There's plenty of sites online, such as salary.com or payscale.com, where you can find out what you're worth, what your skills are worth on the marketplace in relation to other jobs that are out there. And then lastly, and probably most important, you have to have the right mindset. Listen, you're not going in there and begging for a raise or demanding a raise or issuing an ultimatum. You're going in there as a business decision, bringing in staff to support your case and showing why you need to be deserving of that raise. So Vanessa, since asking for a raise is so stressful for people, what are some of the best ways that people can kind of psych themselves up before they go in there?
You are so right, Jim. So before you even walk into the room, your emotional state is going to be read by your boss. And a lot of people have no idea that body language actually starts before you even walk in. So there was this fascinating study, it's one of my favorites, done by Harvard Business School. And what they did is they wanted to see, does your body language before you walk into the room affect your success or your effectiveness in the boardroom? So what they did is they had 2 groups come into their lab and they tested their hormone levels as well as they took a general shot of how they held their body. Then they split them up into 2 groups and they asked one group to go into power body language poses. So these people, they had to go into expansive poses. So they had to put their hands on their hips. I'm going to include a couple pictures for you. They put their hands behind their head. They put their feet up on the desk. Anything that was taking up space. In the other group, they had them do victim body language. So holding their body, crossing their arms over their chest, what we do when we're nervous. Then they had both of those groups prepare a presentation. They walked into a room and had to give the presentation to people rating them on a scale of 1 to 10. Anyone who had been in the first group, the power posing group, got 90% higher ratings than the people who were in the victim body language before they walked into the room. Again, this had nothing to do with their actual presentation. It just had to do with what they did before they walked into the room. So, when you're preparing to go into an office or go into a negotiation, do some of those power poses. Take up space. Put your hands on your hips. Spread your legs and put your arms wide so that you can really feel like you're gaining confidence. That will increase your testosterone and lower your cortisol so that you're on the confident levels before you even walk into the room.
All right, so you're pumped up and you're ready to go into your boss's office. Are there body language secrets to get things off on the right foot?
Definitely. So there's a few things you can do right when you walk in to make sure that you're setting off right from the beginning on a good angle for them. And actually, the first one is angles. So there was a really fascinating study that was done on how we sit, and it was called the Knights of the Round Table because they wanted to know, is a round table really the best way to sit? And what they found is whenever you're directly across from someone, you actually recall less of what is said, you speak in shorter sentences, and you actually say no more. So if you're walking into an office, you're better off taking a chair at an angle or positioning yourself on a couch so that you're slightly angled at them. That will actually make them more likely to say yes. So if possible, sit at a slight angle. The second thing that you can do when you walk into a room is to actually only carry one thing. Studies have shown that when people carry a briefcase and a purse, or an overcoat and a briefcase, it makes them look more disorganized and messy. So if possible, leave your second bag in the car, leave your coat with the receptionist. Having one item will actually make you seem more put together and more organized.
And here's a question people always have. What do I do with my hands, right? Now that you're in the office, do you fold them? Do you put them on the desk? Do you hide them? Are you casual? What's the best thing for someone to do with their hands?
Yeah, so that's a great question, especially when we're nervous, we don't know what to do with our hands. Our hands are actually one of the first places our brain looks when they're talking to someone. So if possible, keep your hands visible as much as possible. Whatever you do, don't tuck them below the desk. A lot of people will put them in their lap or they'll kind of grip their chair arms. As much as possible, you want to leave your hands visible. So put them together. You can do this, which is a steeple pose. This is a pose of confidence. So while you're talking to them, they can see your hands. From an evolutionary standpoint, it also puts them on the relaxed part, because they go, oh, he's not carrying a weapon. Back in caveman days, if you couldn't see someone's hand, you were worried they had a weapon. So keep your hands visible as much as possible. Don't tuck them under your arms. Try not to put them in your pockets. That's going to really help them trust you, and it's going to help you build rapport.
So I should keep mine up here while we're talking. So I'll say
that's why I'm always all hands. Yeah, exactly.
Those are some great points, Vanessa. From a negotiation standpoint, one key thing is to go in knowing your boss's style. So if they're kind of a big picture strategy person, you want to kind of paint that story and talk about maybe the biggest problem they have and take them along a story of how you're going to be able to solve that problem. But if they're more of a bottom line numbers oriented person, you want to get to the facts right away. You want to arm yourself with that data of how you're bringing money into the company or saving them money. So for example, you might say something like, well, since I've been online marketing director for the last 2 quarters, our paid views are up 37%. We've signed 9 new advertisers, and that has led to a $210,000 increase to the bottom line. All right, so now you're going to continue building your case on why you deserve a raise. A lot of people tend to overcomplicate things and they're so stressed out about it, but here's a very simple framework. Just think past, present, future. So you go in and say, here are the things that I've been working on over the past year. List out your accomplishments and again, how you've saved the company money and made the company money. Next, here are the projects I'm working on now. If it's possible, what I recommend is kind of attaching yourself to higher profile projects within your company. And some people say, oh Jim, I have a really old company, they're set in their ways, but even in the older companies, there's usually a division or a project. Maybe they're updating their website to be mobile responsive, or they're working on an app. Even if you have to volunteer for that, attach yourself to those high-profile projects, and that'll help you stand out. And then think about the future, and make sure you put it in their terms. Think about what their goals are and how you are going to help them reach their goals in the future. So as you're presenting all this, Vanessa, how can I read the body language of the person I'm sitting across from and see how they're receiving that message?
Right. So everything we've been talking about before was your body language, right? Sending out confident, nonverbal cues. But how do you make sure that you're picking up on their positive body language? So there are actually 3 positive body language cues you can look out for to kind of check in nonverbally on how you're doing. The first one is you want to see that up and down nodding. So this is in the North America and Europe, we shake our head up and down when we mean yes. If they're nodding along with you while you're talking, that is a very, very good sign. In fact, watch for when that doesn't happen, and that's when you can go into a little bit more detail. So if you're, talking about projects you've been working on and they're nodding, and then all of a sudden they stop, you can say, let me give you a little bit more detail on what I did for that project. That's a great way to non-verbally keep them going with you in agreement. The second thing that's a very positive body language cue is licking of the lips. So if you see your boss kind of rubbing their lips, that's actually what we do when we're about to get ready to do something. So that's actually a good thing. Just like when we are eating and we're like, yum. It's the same kind of thing. So if you see that licking of the lips on Shark Tank, you often see the investors will lick their lips right before they put in an offer. So it's actually a very good thing when you see that. Keep going. And the last one is something that we talked about earlier, which is steepling. Steepling is a gesture of confidence, wisdom. So if you see your boss, that's one of the best things, because it means they feel confident in you, they feel confident in what they're saying. So that's a great one. Now on the other side, if you see them doing what's called blocking behavior, you want to slow down, back up a little bit. So blocking behavior is when someone takes something and they put it in front of their body. It's a way that we protect ourselves or stop from seeing something that we don't like. So for example, they take their coffee mug all of a sudden and they're listening to you like this. That's not the best thing, because they're literally trying to put a block in between you and them.
So if you're getting that blocking behavior and they're getting defensive like that, how do you break that?
So salespeople often will hand them a pen or a calculator to look up something, and it gets them out of either this blocking behavior or it makes them put down their coffee mug.
Excellent. You know what? That's actually perfect, because one of the recommendations I give is to make a digital portfolio. It's crazy how everything's gone digital, right? Our photos are digital, our movies are digital. And so once only the realm of designers and photographers, I really think people can make a digital portfolio on the iPad. There's more than 100 million iPads and other tablets out there. So put together kind of telling your story about here's what I did last quarter, here's what I'm working on, and you can take, screenshots of a website, you can embed videos, you can show graphs, and so that might be a perfect opportunity to kind of lead them through and hand them that iPad and kind of break that blocking and really engage them. And the other thing that does is it kind of gives you back some of the power during the interview or during the performance review, and now you're telling the story and leading them through your path to success.
I love it. So bring in objects that you know, whether that's a digital portfolio or an example of your work, so that when you see them go into this behavior, or they're holding their coffee cup, you can go, hey, let me show you an example of some things I put together for you. So I love that. Have that ready just in case they go into that blocking behavior. Hopefully you won't even need it.
Exactly. All right, so you're ready to close things out. Any good salesman knows you've got to ask for the sale, right? So what should I be doing from a body language perspective as we're leading up to this last part?
Yeah, so the best thing that you can do, and salesmen are so good at this, and anyone can employ this body language technique, it's called mirroring. So when we're really getting along with someone, we automatically mirror them. For example, they've looked at best friends, and they find that best friends, when they're talking to each other, actually have the same blink rate, they hold their body the same way, their heart rates sync up. We really, when we're building rapport with someone, we feel connected to them, we already mirror them. So you can do this when you're trying to build rapport. So one thing you can do is, if your boss speaks a little bit more slowly, he's a little bit more relaxed, maybe he sits like this, you actually don't want to be overeager and really tight while he's nice and loose. And you don't want to speak fast if he's a slow speaker. So you want to try to match his cadence. For example, I was just speaking to someone who's a Southerner, and he has a nice Southern drawl. Now, I don't copy his accent, of course, but I tend to speak quickly. So I made sure to slow down my rate of speech so that it matched his rate of speech. I noticed he took a big sigh of relief when I did this, because it was as if I was going onto his level. So you want to match your boss in terms of words and the way that they speak, as well as if they have a relaxed body language, you want to have a relaxed body language. If they're leaning forward and into you, you also want to lean forward and into them. Very, very subtle mirroring. That can really help.
Got it. And so when we go back into ask, the moment of truth, what you want to do is present your case. So it's all building to this. You talk about the accomplishments that you've had, all the projects you're working for, looking towards the future. And remember that the data I talked about in step one of knowing your value on the marketplace? I think it's actually very helpful to put together a custom document that shows that you've done this research. So one thing I actually suggest is creating a salary research document of that data that you've done. So here you can build up the bullet points of what you're asking for, and then here are all the stats of the research you found, and you can kind of plot that showing what the median salary is, what the range is, and what that data that you found. And then you can say something like, based on my research, here's where I fall, but for someone with my skills at the marketplace, it was towards the higher end of that range. Is that something we can talk about?
I love that, and I love having that put together because A, it makes you look very organized. Another opportunity to get them out of defensive body language, right? So if you've noticed that you're about to go into the ask and they've all of a sudden kind of done that kind of thing, you can say, let me show you this document. So it's another object to get them out of that defensive body language and that you're on the same page. Another thing that you can do here, which I love, is as you're handing them the document, you can lean into your strong points. Leaning in is a nonverbal exclamation point. It's literally like you're saying, I'm engaged, I'm with you, I'm connected. So as you're doing that, it's a great way to lean in. I also highly recommend that while you're making your strong points, to lean in on them. So for example, let's say you're talking about past accomplishments, and you can say, one of my favorite accomplishments was when I was working on this project. That's actually a way of bolding or underlining what you're saying. So you can lean in and be sure not to lean back. So a lot of people, when they're nervous, they're going into the ask, they get afraid. So they lean back in their chair because they're afraid of what's going to happen. It has the opposite effect. It makes you look like you're disengaged or you're really nervous and not confident about what you're saying. So be sure to either stay still or lean forward when you're making those points. That's going to really help you close on that ask.
And the analogy I always make is that you're collaborating together. Some people will go in, they're like, I'm worth more, I'm worth $100,000. But this is showing it's a business decision you've researched and say, according to my research, here's what I found. And the analogy I make is like you're almost looking at a map together. I guess everyone uses Google Maps now, right? But if you had a picture of a map spread out on a table and both of you trying to find that path together, work together to come to a common goal.
I love it. And by the way, that also is the angled chairs. If you come around to their side of the table or you have to lean in, like let's say that you have to sit directly across from them, leaning over is a great way to get out of that direct into an angled position. I love it. Well, we hoped you liked these quick negotiation and body language tips. I have to say that I took Jim's online course, How to Negotiate for a Raise or Promotion, and I loved it. He really makes a complex topic very simple and straightforward. He covered how to approach your boss, how to prepare for a raise, and how to handle the really stressful parts of negotiation because they can be very nerve-wracking. I learned so much by watching him, and most importantly, I loved his templates. He gives you a lot of help on how to prepare for some of those sheets that we talked about, how to look at your success log, and what to show your boss so that you look really prepared. I love those templates.
And I've taken Vanessa's course, The Secrets of Body Language, and I have to say it was fascinating. It's a really good mix of the science behind it, but then the common sense that you find yourself saying, oh yeah, that makes total sense. I'm going to look out for that next time, not only professionally, but whether you're on a date or you're in a conflict or you're having an important conversation business-wise. So there's so many ways you can use it. And because they work together so well, we're actually bundling both courses together and offering it as a package on online learning site udemy.com. So thank you very much for watching the video.
Thank you so much. I hope we'll see you in our courses.